Welcome to Loot Drops, the evolution of Freelancer Chat. Thank you so much for joining us today. Joining me today is Arekkz.
How's it going?
Hey, Arekkz. Thank you so much for joining me. Real quick, off the top of the show, I kind of wanted to talk about what people can expect going forward and how the show is evolving. Are we ditching Anthem? That's the biggest concern I've heard from people, and the answer is a resounding no. We're still going to talk about Anthem, but we realize that because there's so many great things happening in the shared world shooter space, we would be doing you a disservice and us a disservice to not talk about those other games. But we also didn't want to shoehorn ourselves into one property. I've seen the comments. Why are you killing Anthem? We're not killing Anthem. Why don't you talk about Division 2? All right, we'll talk about Division 2. Hey, did you see this Borderlands 3 show thing? You should do a Borderlands 3 show. So all of that's going on in the background, and we're like, man, how can we evolve the show to sort of encompass all these things that people want, but still talk about the games that you love and we love. And this is how we're evolving the product. So thank you for supporting us during this transition. The new show is now Loot Drops, where you can come for all of your latest in the shared world looter, shooter, splooter genre.
Hey, that's the one. It needs to be called Schluter Chat, but you know what? That's the unofficial title.
Schluter. I was like, no. And thank you so much for helping me brainstorm a name.
No worries.
It's hard coming up with a name that's at least somewhat original or interesting.
Yeah. It's funny to ask me to sort of help brainstorm, because I am probably the worst person at thinking of names ever, which is probably why my name is just a misspelling of my own name. So yeah, names are not my strong suit, but hey, we got there. It's exciting. Yeah, it's nice. It is nice just being able to talk about like a ton of different stuff, right? Like we play a lot of games. Why not talk about a lot of games, right? I mean, that's basically what we're here to do, right? So yeah, I think it sounds good. It's good to see.
Absolutely. And thank you, Noodle Source, for the Twitch Prime sub supporting the show right off the bat. And I will turn off notifications, which I thought I did before the show. But real quick, Dantics, I think he just overslept. He may join us a little bit later. But there is a big topic that everyone asked us to discuss on this week's show, and that is obviously the Kotaku article about Anthem. So like we said, Anthem isn't going anywhere. And I suppose I'll let you start right now, Arekkz. And the article kind of went over a lot of the challenges that Anthem faced in development, some really, really harrowing stuff about how the staff dealt with the crunch of the game. And I was kind of wondering, just what is your reaction to this piece? What was your initial reaction, and what was the most concerning thing that stood out to you?
I think it's always difficult kind of like trying to sort of dive into these topics, because obviously, you know, I appreciate, you know, there's obviously a lot of people that's been spoken to throughout the article, but like it's hard to sort of see what goes on throughout development. You know, I've worked in the games industry before, so I've kind of experienced crunch myself to a certain degree. So there's some stuff that I have like insight on, and it seems kind of like it's the one sort of weird thing about talking about that as well is that because there's still like a ton of people there that are super hard at work like on the game, so it feels kind of weird to try and sort of like sully that at the same time. But the thing that stood out to me probably the most was actually the similarity in the story, that when you kind of compare it to what we heard like in the past about sort of like Destiny during development, not necessarily about working conditions, but more about like their troubles with the engine, right? Like engine troubles. I remember speaking to people like in you know, when it came to like Destiny 1, they were like, oh, if you want to push like an update, like just do something simple, it takes like days. And despite having all those engine troubles, which ultimately underpins everything they've got, you know, like irrespective of like management or developers or producers, or, you know, not necessarily being able to like align on like a vision, irrespective of that, if your tools are causing problems, like everything you want to do is infinitely more complex. But yet the interesting thing about that is because you can draw parallels between that and like almost Destiny story, and Destiny to a degree managed to come out of that, then I still, despite reading that story, still feel like they can turn Anthem around, and they can turn it into something that like that's not even like a naive statement. That's more just like I genuinely believe, like sort of knowing what is possible within that space. Like I think it is still possible to do. That's kind of what jumped out to me initially.
I do agree. I do think that they can turn it around. I think the biggest concern is that how the staff has been dealing with crunch and how they feel like they have to stay to work on this game, and the immense pressure that they're under. And that's why people are like, oh, why don't you like stick it to them more? And it's because that's really, really hard for me to do, knowing how much people dedicate their lives to making these products possible.
Yeah.
So I'm very, very concerned about the amount of work that goes into a product like this, to the point that people are going into rooms to cry, for example. That's really concerning to hear and read.
Yeah.
And Casey Hudson did come out and say that they are working towards that. And unfortunately, a lot of other people also came out and said, hey, this is the same thing at my studio XYZ. This is actually an industry-wide problem, as far as I can tell.
Crunch is a problem, yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, crunch is something that I say, I mean, you know, to like a lesser degree, but, you know, I spent like 3 years in games industry, and, you know, during that time, I experienced like my rush of crunch to a certain degree. And like, there is definitely, it's one of those strange things, because it's always, in those kind of environments, it's always kind of stanced like as a, oh, you know, you can do more hours if you want to, but it's like, they say if you want to, but you're kind of like, well, everyone else is doing it, so I feel like I should do it. So there's kind of, it's almost like this weird kind of peer pressure thing where you feel like you have to, even if it's not like contractually you must work here. You kind of end up getting to this point where you're so attached to the project, and you're just like, well, I really want it to work. I really want it to work, and then suddenly you just end up feeling yourself as being pulled in. So yeah, but yeah, I mean, crunch is, it's like there was that same sort of story when wasn't it when Red Dead launched, and they were kind of talking about how like the amount of time they put in just to try and make it happen. It's like, yeah, I mean, crunch is, yeah, I mean, I can't really sort of think of like a big AAA game that hasn't kind of gone through those hefty times, right?
Absolutely. I think all AAA games have to deal with that at some point, and it's unfortunate that the industry hasn't seemed to have found a good work-life balance. I think when you're working passionately with a bunch of people there's people that are there because they're excited to work for BioWare. They believe in the BioWare magic, so they'll put in the extra time, and then it's really, really difficult to see that game fail and realize that amount of work went into something that was a critical disappointment for a lot of people, and then that causes depression, and of course there's this whole really, really negative loop. I know for myself, to a smaller extent, like when you review games, you'll spend like a week solid on them, and mostly it's just really, really sad to hear how difficult it's been for them to be working on this product and end up coming out and having this challenge of figuring out that it was a critical flop and that they spent all this time on it. I really hope Casey Hudson ends up finding a way to turn the studio around and get that better work-life balance going.
No, I mean, I think that needs to be the kind of like, you know, if anything comes from that, like that's 100% something that, you know, industry-wide, that needs to happen, right? I mean, like they need to find a way to still achieve all the goals they want to, but like in a way that doesn't involve invariably having to crunch hefty in the last, you know, X number of months, right?
Yeah. I truly hope that that's not what it requires to make games like this, and I don't know what it's like at other studios, but I've heard this story again and again and again about game development, and hopefully, if anything comes out of this, I hope it's some sort of consensus or drive to fix that problem industry-wide, because we keep hearing these stories over and over again. As for the future of Anthem, it sounds like they faced a lot of challenges the same way that Destiny did, and it sounds like that there's a lot of challenges behind the scenes just for making simple updates, and it's just kind of like like we almost didn't have flying. That was kind of shocking to me because it's so integral to the Anthem experience and to the flow of combat. The fact that took so long to iterate. Go ahead. Yeah,
it was interesting just to hear sort of just how like it, you know, supposedly sort of changed even from like, you know, the initial concept of like, you know, it was going to be like this sort of survival game instead, like, you know, and the looting aspect kind of came in much later. But one of the other things sort of things that kind of jumped out as well is that, and it's so difficult when you have these massive teams with so many different kind of, you know, management roles and so many different people having to kind of like, you know, lead certain different teams. But when you do have different visions or different ideas, you know, I remember when I was working and, you know, on certain different games, you might raise points, be like, oh, you know, I think this would be a really good idea, and at the time, you know, either due to there not being capacity or them just like not seeing eye to eye, things get overlooked, and then kind of it comes full circle when the game launches. It's like, we kind of should have had that, and then someone invariably along the lines like, I did actually say that. But it's very. I suppose that might also be one of the challenges. I mean, even though, you know, we're in a digital age and everything can be done online anyway, maybe that's also part of the challenge of partly working across like multiple studios in different locations. I mean, like, you know, at least if you're in like one cohesive building, you like run down the road or run down the hallway to the program and like, yo, what's going on? Whereas maybe if there's a, you know, difference in I don't know. It's really hard to lock down like ultimately what went on there without actually having been there. But I do still think though, like, I mean, yeah, I think ultimately the problem is, yeah, when you do have these engines that are basically the blocker for a lot of things. I mean, yeah, hearing about the troubles of kind of building in Frostbite, and obviously it being not necessarily being the engine that you would kind of tailor to this kind of thing. I don't know whether they'll use this as a means to then, now they're in launch, they're going to have to kind of like rework certain sections of it to like better accommodate the features they want to do moving forward. Because if they're in a position where like everything, even down to like baking lighting, if they're in the position where like everything takes them like days to turn around, then obviously when they're in a situation right now where they're like, oh, we need to make very quick fixes, like we just dropped an update and something's gone wrong, and then they're just like, if that then takes them a day to even be able to process a potential fix, it's almost not that I'm trying to excuse it, but it's almost not surprising that like when they put out like a quick hotfix, suddenly it comes to like another issue. Because if the behind the scenes engine is such a pain to work with, maybe they haven't even been able to properly test it, but they're also like, well, we have to do something. So they're kind of stuck between a rock and a hard place.
Absolutely. And it just sucks to see them have to deal with that, because it means that it's going to be harder for them to iterate with the world of Anthem and figure out new ways to improve that experience. So that's my main takeaway from the article. All of the challenges and stuff sounds ridiculous. The fact that they developed the engine like 12, 13 months out and able to launch with a fairly stable product is surprising, to say the least. I wish they would have had more time to fully realize the vision of what they were creating. But it looks like we just didn't get that product in the end. My main concern after reading the article wasn't so much about the game or the state of it. It was just the people and how the people are reacting to all that work that they put in. And that was my biggest concern. And I kind of wonder going forward, like, I think it's going to be harder for people to jump on the Anthem bandwagon, so to speak, because of hearing about this. And it's hard for me to play the game with the same perspective, because I see now, I'm just like, man, like a lot of people like had to go on sick leave because of the amount of stress and stuff to make this product. And it's also another reason why it's been harder for me to do reviews as I get older, because I'm just like, so really I'm just being an armchair critic. I get to play this game and I jump into the minutia of the product, but people dedicated 3, 4, 5 years of their lives to make this thing possible, and I'm complaining because the gun bullets don't explode the way that I wanted. Just so it makes me more cognizant of how you can give critical feedback. I don't know. Any final thoughts on the situation?
I mean, well, it's actually like just touching on what you were just saying there. It's the same reason that like a lot of the time people often say to me, whenever I kind of talk about games, so like whatever it is that I'm talking about on the channel, whether it's Destiny, Division, Anthem, a lot of people are always like, why are you always so positive? And it's like, because again, like maybe I am partly from previous industry experience, kind of having sort of seen the other side, maybe I'm slightly more forgiving. But in that same respect, it's like, like a game might come out and I might have like enjoyment with it, and then it might not be perfect, but I'm like, there's still like, irrespective of whether the game has done what you want it to or not, people still work damn hard on that game, and they are still working damn hard on the game. And it's like, that's why I'm just like, it's frustrating that Anthem doesn't necessarily have the content that I want. And obviously, I appreciate that it's still like a product you've gone out to buy. So obviously, I'm not saying that any of this is like acceptable, but I think it's why I'm kind of me personally, I'm kind of more forgiving. I'm happy just to be like, all right, I played the game. I'm going to step away, because I feel like I still feel like it's going to evolve, but I'm still mindful that like, someone's, the people have still worked really hard on this regardless, and I've still got enjoyment out of it. So like, that's why I'm probably, me personally, I've always been a little bit less critical on that typical front, right? That's so I see what you mean about that when it comes to like reviewing things. You like, you feel you obviously have there's a certain like, onus on you to say those things, but at the same time, you're still like, well, someone has still worked really hard on this, It is difficult to balance, but I still feel like, I mean, reading kind of towards the end of that article, I mean, the fact that they were kind of talking about like, some people having the vision and the ability now that it's launched for them to try and push towards that. I feel like I do still want to believe that they can get there, and I still feel like that, there is. I think the nice thing about Anthem is, irrespective of it being built on a tricky engine, as we've said in pretty much every episode whenever we talk about Anthem, the thing that is still solid is the foundation. The gameplay foundation is great, irrespective of all the changes it's gone through. Like, it's still got a fun gameplay loop. So if they can build on that, and it might take them 3 months, it might take them 6 months, right? It might be one of those things. And I completely get if people are like, it's not acceptable. I don't want to wait that long. That's fair. If that's you, then move on and play a different game. But it's like I am personally thinking that if we do fast forward 6-12 months, we could have a Taken King situation for Anthem, where suddenly they've been able to get a handle on the engine. They've been able to kind of finally put in the things they want to, and we might actually have that content.
Last week we announced that we were going to change the name of the show and go in sort of a different direction. And then the Kotaku article came out, and I'm kind of like, well, geez, they have a long road ahead of them. And honestly, it just really sucks because even with all the controversy and doubt that was out there on the internet, I'm like, I really, really believe in this product. And just to see where it's at currently based on 19 interviews with internal people, I'm not like angry. I'm more depressed than anything else. It's just, It just sucks to hear that they work so hard to get this product out the door, and they did it in such a short period of time. It's just, again, as with Andromeda, they were held back by Frostbite, which we all guessed and it seems like we were correct about. And that is basically just, it's a bummer. It's hard to hear. And I wish everybody who's still at BioWare the best. I hope they find better work balances for their employees. I do hope Anthem improves, and hopefully in a year or so from now, we're playing a much, much better product. They even canceled the live stream this week, which I think is smart, because I think they need to kind of get sort of an internal consensus about what they're going to do going forward to improve their employees' work life and improve this product that they do have a stable audience for, but they have to figure out going forward. It's also with the game. And stop using Frostbite. Yeah, dear God.
If only they could just be like, let me just take Anthem and just plop it on something else. But unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. But no, I was saying the other one thing is like, they almost need to be in that position where they, and it's so hard to do because they've built this campaign around this game on transparency, whereby running up to the game's launch and throughout launch, they were kind of speaking all the time. But they almost need to be in a position now where they're just like, right, you know what, we're going to go dark for like a month, just like a solid month, and just like put in because in that previous position where they were kind of churning out updates every week, right? I mean, when you think about that in a development time, and now what we know about the Frostbite engine being so difficult to work with, I mean, that doesn't leave them much time, right? It's like, and I appreciate that's not going to give the fans what they want, and people are going to be like, why the hell are you not speaking? But they almost need to be in that position where they're just like, kind of what Bungie do sometimes. Like Bungie were in that position where, I'm not saying they're the model because they're not, but kind of when Bungie before were like, they just speak when they have stuff to talk about. They almost kind of need to adopt that model right now and be like, even if we don't say anything for the next like month or so, we're going to work on something megaton, and then when we finally do drop something, it's a little bit more than just like a piecemeal update.
I think behind the scenes they're probably putting together that plan, figuring out what they're going to do next. That's all we really have to say about Anthem right now. We'll be back next week, and we're not dropping any of the games. We're just going to continue talking about Anthem. That was probably the biggest piece of news to come out this week. But something else has been happening in the world of shared world shooters with Division 2. Arekkz, this is right up your alley. I'm still not World Tier 5, but World Tier 5 was released this week. Included some new gear sets that you can acquire, some new weapons. Why don't you tell us a little bit about, I've seen your videos, you've been putting out the videos, so you're in there, you're in the mix. What are you thinking of it so far?
So just before I dive into that, I have noticed that Dantics has just come online. So if you did want to like do any behind the scenes switcheroos while I speak Division 2, then you're more than welcome to. But
well, hold that thought. Hold that thought.
Okay.
Let's get Dantics in here. We'll be right back, chat. And we're back. So, Dantics, you're here. We did talk about the Kotaku article as we discussed. We revealed the new logo. Sorry for the time change confusion, but I do want to, of course, give you a chance to say your piece about the Anthem news and how you felt about it. Basically, we just gave our initial reactions. We talked about how much we feel for the developers who are working these insane hours to put the game out, and how we hope that BioWare manages to figure out a better work-life balance and still somehow improve the game in a year or so. Go ahead, take it away.
Yeah, first also, sorry about the time zone changes. It's slowly crept back 2 hours now, so now it's just a little bit earlier for me. But in terms of the Kotaku article, look, if everything there is completely accurate, then I do not think it's an acceptable state for BioWare to be in. I'm not sure exactly what you guys have already said, but especially with me, work-life balance has always been a major issue. It's why I left the corporate lifestyle. I was working 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. almost every day at an advertising agency. And it just so happened to be my birthday one day, and I decided to leave at 6 p.m. so I could catch my birthday party. And my boss told me that you're leaving work a bit early, aren't you? So I thought that was the time I should probably quit. So if BioWare's...
just like, BioWare's kind of I'm out permanently. Bye.
Yeah, it was kind of that moment where I'm like, my contract says 5 p.m. and I've been leaving, 9, 10 every single day. I can't keep doing this. So that was the moment where I left, and then I just tried this as a thing, and it's kind of worked out for me. But it doesn't work out for everyone. And I mean, there's some people out there, especially developers and programmers and sound technicians and everything that works together to make these games come to life. They can't afford to do things like that. This is their livelihood, and if they're getting treated like absolute garbage, it shouldn't be like that. And a few people were saying in the chat, it's EA, it won't change. Games can't get better. Yeah, of course they can get better. Things can change. Of course things can change, and they should. So I guess that's my 2 cents on it.
Here's the crazy thing, actually. You bring up EA. They didn't have Flight until EA stepped in, and I saw a Reddit post get the top vote. That irony is the game ended up in the state that it was because EA stepped in and actually suggested some positive changes. So that surprised me more than anything.
Yeah, me too. You'll find that a lot of people, even BioWare employees that I've been talking to, have said, look, EA aren't as crazy as you'd expect them to be with this kind of stuff. It's just like, we had this for 6 years, we didn't push a game out, and now they're like, look guys, you need to put something out. We've been paying you for 6 years. So I kind of get that if you frame it that way. So I don't know everything that's going on behind the scenes, but I think if the Kotaku article was accurate and if all the sources were accurate and everything in there was accurate, then
19 sources is pretty much like, okay, well, like you definitely did your due diligence. 19 people, jeez.
Yeah. Say what you want about Kotaku. Jason is a legit old school journalist. He does his work, and I don't doubt what he does. So I don't know, guys. What do you think?
Like we said, like we kind of covered off on everything already. But they have to fix that work-life balance for the employees. Their employees need to have a better balance for their lives, and that's what needs to be addressed first and foremost before they even 100%. Start working on anything else. And it's going to have a continuous effect on their other properties if they don't address it now. Hopefully there is some positivity to come out of this, like the Anthem engine being sort of fleshed out. Maybe it'll help Dragon Age down the line. Maybe it'll help the workflow situations that led to this thing. But it happened for Andromeda. It happened for Anthem. And like, if it keeps happening, BioWare's it will be dead.
They're just going to get off Frostbite, right? Like, why are they still using the same engine?
Yeah, it might be a mandate. Who knows? We don't really know. Anyway, we were about to transition over to Division 2, talk about World Tier 5, to kind of talk about other games and what's happening with them. Division 2, World Tier 5 just launched. Arekkz, you've been covering this a ton. I'm still in World Tier 2. I've been slowly creeping my way to World Tier 5, slowly but surely. I have like a 300 gear score-ish because my buddy Illegal Knot just keeps dumping gear on me, basically.
Awesome. That is nice. That is.
And yeah, so what are your thoughts now that you've had some time with the newest update to Division 2, Arekkz?
So I mean, it's definitely nice to be in that position where, like, because now I feel like I'm in the point in the game where, because like beforehand, like, you know, obviously I said before I was having a great time. They definitely have like a ton of content in it, and as looters, in terms of in like the looter shooter space, at least kind of from the ones that have come out now, is definitely like, you know, the most competent complete package on launch. But I'd say, like, I think as I mentioned last week when it came to World Tier 4, because that was sort of like a cap. It was, you kind of got to the point where there was only so much value in kind of building builds World Tier 4 because everything was going to be replaced. But now that we are that kind of upper limit, I hit gear score 500 on like the first day, so now I'm in that position where basically everything that's dropping for me is essentially 500. So now is when we're starting to build builds. It is yeah, exactly right. But here's the interesting thing, and it's like, so they've introduced the gear sets, which is cool because obviously if you play Division 1, gear sets were a really interesting dynamic. Obviously they were, you know, they have the cool gear bonuses. The introduction in Division 2 of brand sets made it so you kind of had a taste of that early on, and brand sets are obviously effective down to, you know, just one piece, whereas gear sets are 2 to 6. The one weird thing about gear sets right now is that at least two out of the 3 of them, they're not amazing. I mean, there's some potential with them. There's some interesting perks in them, and the way they work is interesting. But I feel like often in the game, as we kind of mentioned in the past, a lot of the time when you have this, it's interesting perks tend to get overlooked by what does the most damage. It's that unfortunate reality that ultimately in games like this, basically people are chasing the numbers, right? So, you know, there's a couple of them that they've got some interesting options for them, but you know, when you compare it to like Division 1 gear sets where some of them just gave you flat damage boosts, it's a bit like, I mean, I'm not saying I want that, because it's kind of like, as we mentioned before, where like if you introduce something that does just give you flat damage boost, then you kind of feel like it just removes the value of anything else. But at the same time, some of them are still a little bit like, I think it's gonna be interesting to see what happens when the raid drops. There's a gear set that's come out, for example, that is definitely gonna have some great synergy for teams. So the True Patriot set, this is the one where, you know, you can apply different debuffs to enemies, and if you've got multiple people running it, then you can simultaneously apply those buffs. So it's quite there's definitely potential for that to work in the raid. But yeah, right now it's been good. I mean, it's nice the way they've done it. They obviously the additional stronghold got added. Probably my favorite one so far. I like it. Like, it's design, like level design in Division has always been really good. So ton of great content in there. Obviously, a lot of it you are looping back playing the same missions again, so the invaded one. So that part of it is still kind of repetitive content, but there's always going to be that element to it. But yeah, I mean, like, so far I've been having a lot of fun with it, and like now I'm just starting to, you know, work towards builds. We've got a date for the raid. We've got like, what is it, April 26th, 25th,
25th,
basically end of the month. Yeah, so
my dad's birthday.
I
think it was
nice.
April 25th.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you excited about the raid? Like, is that what you're gearing up for? Is that your gear chase currently with Division 2?
Yeah. So that's definitely the thing right now. I'm excited, but I'm also kind of like sort of keeping my expectations in check, because it's one of the weird things. Like, they have delivered so far on everything they have promised. They have promised so far. You know, they said before, like, all right, Division 1 didn't have an end game. We're building this game with end game in mind. There's a ton of content. There's loads of things to do in this game, and even the way that you obtain things. Like, one of the things I was speaking to one of the developers the other day. I like the fact that even when it comes to, say, obtaining exotic weapons, you know, in some games, the way in which you obtain, you know, exotics comes from the same pool. It's just RNG, right? So which one you get eventually. Whereas, you know, in Division, there's so many different ways to get them, and like a couple of the new ones, they come from different sources. So they've got quite a lot of variety in the game. So they've delivered on all that, but I do still feel like, I don't know why. I hope I'm proven wrong, but I still feel like the raid probably isn't going to be what we think when it comes to like a raid. I mean, you know, you and I as like Destiny players, like whenever I don't think we're going to get a Destiny level raid in Division. Let's put it that way. I don't feel like we're going to have crazy mechanics. I would love to be proven wrong. I really would. But I feel like it's going to be one of those interesting ones where, I mean, even down to like when we're fighting a boss, there's a boss in the new stronghold, and there's a mechanic that I'm like, they're definitely going to use that in the raid. There's a part where the big
robot, basically.
No, not even the robot. This is just a human enemy in the new stronghold.
Oh, okay.
And there's a phase where when she's got 3 exclamation marks in her life bar, you physically can't do damage to her. And I'm like, that sounds like a raid mechanic, but it doesn't make sense, because there's a part where she's just a human, and I've just unloaded 600 bullets of my LMG into a human, and she's like, nope, you can't damage me, man. So there's a couple of parts where I'm like, they're probably going to use that in the raid. But you know what? As I say, I would love to be proven wrong, but that is my drive. That is ultimately my goal right now. I want to be doing, you know, I still want to take part in the world first race. I love those kind of things. So that is ultimately my chase right now. So
absolutely. Yeah. So I got to be honest, like, I get Division 2, it's been really hard for me to get into. And
okay.
I don't know why. I don't know what it is about it. I think it's just because it's the human enemies. And that's why I've been taking it at such a casual pace. And again, like, all my loot is meaningless because I'm not in the end game yet. So I'm like,
yeah, I'm
not powered up yet. I'm not. It's hard for me to get invested in the loot that I do have. So I need better loot drops. Show name. And I think once I get there, once I get into the end game, and once I can start building gear sets, sorry, that was a bad joke. Once I start getting cool gear sets, then I can actually have a little bit more fun with the world of Division 2. But yeah, still dig Destiny. Anthem, I'll hop back in. When I hear there's a competent update for Anthem, I think I'll start playing again. But there's just not a lot of reason for me to be grinding right now. And then Division 2, man, I'm just taking my pace slow and steady the way that I like it, and I'm having a good time with it.
Nice.
Yeah. So are you're excited about the raid? For now, the gear stuff is just sort of okay. I've heard a lot of players are complaining actually about the gear, that it's not that interesting. Would you agree with that or no?
I mean, if they're talking about the gear sets, then I mean, I'd say they haven't. I think it's the thing before where, like in Division 1, when a gear set dropped, you could instantly look at it and be like, all right, I see the value of that straight away. Like Striker, increased damage. I can't even remember the perks off the top of my head, but the Striker was like the damage focus one. Or like, all right, this is the Firecrest set. All right, this is what I use for like flame turrets. These ones are a little bit more like, there's a couple of obvious perks, like the starting of the I forgot the name of it, but the second gear set has a couple of things for like bleed and burn. So obviously if you've got those kind of sets, so there's definitely some value in them, but I think they don't immediately jump out straight away. Like, you don't see the gear set and we're like, whoa, I need to get that. Like there's, so I think, but it might be one of those ones where, we've only had a couple of days with it. People might, we're still messing around with builds. So once you start, selecting pieces and working it out, then maybe their true value will kind of reveal themselves. I know a lot of people were also getting a bit kind of crazy about like some of the mods, because they made some changes to the mods. And to be fair, I mean, I think it's because a lot of I quite liked it. I mean, like a lot of people, I think, is because it might have just changed their build, and invariably people just get angry when it's like, hey, my build no longer works. Like, mate, it's a looter shooter. Your build's gonna change all the time. Just like just make a new build.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just me. My mentality for a lot of things is like, it's not that deep, man. It's just like just it's changed, adapt, move on, like keep it moving.
Do you think the symptom of a lot of looter shooters is the fact that while you're leveling, your loot doesn't really matter that much? Do you think that's just an overall symptom? I mean, I found out playing even Borderlands, when you get given those shift keys, you're like, no, I'm just going to save these until I'm max level.
Yeah, true.
Yeah.
I know that in Division 2 you can actually save some of your lower level gear and bring it up to your level, so that's actually a positive for that franchise. How does that work, Arekkz?
So you can recalibrate gear, and the recalibration station, there's a couple of things you can do. So I've been holding on to pieces of gear because you can also like take a talent from a piece of gear and put it on something. So I've basically been like holding on to early pieces of gear that I've got that have just got like good weapon talents and good gear talents, so I can just borrow them later. But you can re-roll certain pieces of gear, and some of them you can either re-roll, some of them you have to like recraft. So for example, like the Chatterbox is like a really great exotic SMG because people just use it as like a secondary because it's got a holster talent. And with that one, if you then dismantle it or dismantle a different weapon, don't dismantle your Chatterbox, dismantle like a different weapon, then you can recraft it at like your relevant level, and you just have it at 500. So yeah, there's definitely that. I think that's a nice thing. That's the one thing that they have done really well. Like loot kind of acquisition and like the way that you progress gradually throughout the game has been a pretty good curve in Division. I haven't hit any of those like walls that I typically hit in something like, say, Destiny, where I'm like, I cannot for the life of me push higher in gear right now. Division's literally just like, play some more and you're going to get there. Like, I hit 500 gear score on day one. So I do like the fact that at least in this game, there's always that means to, if you're going to put the time in, you can kind of get there. So yeah.
Yeah, there needs to be something while you're leveling. I know in like World of Warcraft, they've got these items that you can kind of get late game, but then give to a newer character, and they just stay with you throughout the whole leveling experience because they level with you. So things like that might actually help this genre a little bit. But I mean, what Division does is pretty good too, letting you dismantle and take perks and move around or upgrade. That kind of thing is really good too.
I got one really, really good roll on an AR that I will be carrying with me as I climb through the levels. But besides that, like I haven't gotten a great LMG, but there are some LMGs and such that I could see. Like Duggan has a really good LMG roll where like it reloads faster and it just does a ton of DPS. Nice. That's one that I'll probably get. Is the LMG a viable weapon, or would you say it's still mostly ARs with LMGs, like good roll LMGs? Or have they gotten the single point damage weapons up to snuff?
I mean, I think like they're like ARs and like SMGs still incredibly strong. I do still personally use an LMG. The reason that I like LMGs more so is because there's one thing that I still haven't quite worked out to this day. Like the one mechanic that still irks me in this game is when you fight the big guys. You know how like when you shoot them, you see the shield icon above their health bar, and like you see it break. But I don't know, like definitively, whether the condition to break that is just sustained fire or actually damage done. Because, for example, when you look at it in action, it's like you shoot it and then you reload your gun and then it closes back up and you shoot it again. And like, for example, when I was trying to take down a heavy guy with an SMG, it just took what felt like forever. Whereas an LMG, and I laid down 100 bullets, by the time I've finished emptying the magazine, it's broken. So I feel like it's more like a sustained fire because you don't have a health bar for it. It's just like an icon. So for things like that, for the heavies, I love running the LMG. I love just like piling bullets into them. Like it's a great way for breaking armor. It might not be necessarily the highest damage if you're doing like PvP and you're going into like the dark zone. SMGs are still strong. Vector is still a pretty king weapon, but you can't go wrong with an AR. And if you're running like something like Survivalist, you know, they've got the AR bonus, which is what I use anyway. So yeah.
Well, I'm sure I'll get there someday.
Oh yeah,
I'll get there when I'm ready, I guess. It's just I'm just shooting the same dudes over and over again, and I knew about the Black Tusk thing was spoiled for me way before launch because we got to go to a preview event and fight the Black Tusk guys, and I'm like, all right, so I beat the story, and there they are. It was just so like telegraphed, and I was kind of like, well, this potentially could have been a cool moment, but it was totally ruined for me, and sorry for everybody I just ruined it for.
Spoilers.
I have no idea what you're talking about still.
Yeah. We appreciate you nodding and smiling, though, very much. Let's move on to a game that we all know a little bit about, and that is Borderlands 3. So there's been some Borderlands 3 news. We're all really, really excited. I actually hopped in and played a little bit of Borderlands 2. I was having a really good time with that. And it is a little bit about the guns. Now, I have the list in front of me, but Arekkz, do you know the new weapon info, and do you want to talk about it a little bit? Otherwise, I can read it for you, and then we can discuss.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, yeah. So they've one of the new functionality they've obviously got in Borderlands 3 is that they have, you know, a lot of the weapon foundries now, or the brands, should I say, they have dual functionality. It varies different things. So, you know, for some of the obvious ones, I can't remember all the names off the top of my head, but some of them just, you know, for a simple fire rate down to some of them actually having, you know, drastically different functionality. Like the Maliwan weapons, you can switch between elements, which is going to be really useful. And one of the nice things about that is, of course, in the past, I mean, Borderlands has always had tons of guns, right? But in the past, you know, you want a different functionality, you swap to a different weapon. Whereas now it means that, you know, you can just your single weapon kind of has more value in itself. And then if you then pair that across your weapon slots, you kind of then have like 6 versus 3, right? Or, you know, like, so you've kind of got infinitely more value in each individual weapon. And some of them sound crazy. Like, I mean, I'm officially going to be a TDR main because you just throw the weapon
because you throw it and they walk.
Pursue guns. Right. Toss your gun like a grenade to reload, then watch it pursue a nearby enemy as a fully loaded version. Digistructs in your hand. That is.
Oh yes.
I don't know what that.
I want
means,
that because
it sounds really fun.
I'm going to be a beast master. Because that happened in the previous Borderlands games, but they didn't have the running thing. Like you would just any TDO
just
you would throw it, and it would just be explode. Yeah, exactly right.
That's.
And
cool.
And if I want to be a beast master, I want to have like a pet, and I want to have guns. But the interesting thing about that, it's kind of like more of a speculation thing. But like on they specifically call like brand loyalty on the website. So I wonder whether there's kind of like, you know, more to it than just being like, you know, these are the brands. Yeah. Wonder whether there might actually be like a loyalty system in game whereby, you know, if you know, the more you use it, maybe you complete challenges or something. It's like, oh, you know, I've done like 50 missions with TDO weapons. They're like, hey, now you've got like a TDO bonus. I don't know, something like that. Kind of cool.
Yeah.
It
sounds super cool. Go ahead. Sorry.
There's 9 brands right now, and I believe that they replaced the Bandit brand with the Children of the Vault brand, which is basically Bandit, right? But it seems to have some kind of like Halo energy weapon like effect. Like the more you fire it, the higher chance of it overheating. Oh well, in this case it's chance. Yeah. In this case it's chance. So it might be like a random overheated. Oh, now I need to wait for it to cool down mechanic. But it's got unlimited ammo, which is a really interesting kind of thing with the COV weapon types. And like you mentioned, Maliwan can switch between elemental damage. So are enemies going to be more vulnerable to different elements now? Is it going to be like, oh, there's an ice enemy, you have to use fire to take him out really quickly, then the Maliwans are really good.
Toggle between two elements, charge your weapon, and deal guaranteed elemental damage with your finger glued to the trigger. Yeah, that sounds pretty good to me, but maybe it's more of a dot damage gun, like if you have a fire element and you're shooting an ice-based enemy, making them burn with those unlimited bullets, where your dot damage does more over time, but your sustained damage is lower to sort of balance it out. I could see them making that work really, really well. What do you think?
Unless they could even have like element combos. It could be like one of those things where, like, you know, you apply like because they've also got the Maliwan weapons have the options to do like guaranteed elemental damage through like a charge. So it could even be like, you know, charge and put fire on, and then maybe there's like an in-game thing where like you combine fire and ice or something and it does something else. That could be kind of cool.
Anthem like combo system, huh?
Yeah, exactly right. That would be super cool.
That'd be pretty funny.
I like the combo system a lot. It's really smart. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. There's actually an enemy that it seems to have like an Maliwan kind of like armor set, because it switches between fire and ice attacks. If you guys have noticed in the trailer 2 and trailer 3, yeah, there's a kind of like a fully armored guy firing like maybe 3 or 4 frames firing some fire, and then in the next trailer he's firing ice, and then he switches.
Yeah.
Oh wait, the other way around. But so I think the enemies will have the same kind of functionality. But then there's the Vladov weapons, and now this is interesting to me, probably just as much as TDR is, because you can augment these guns. You can put different barrels on, like rocket launchers on the bottom, and we can't put the picture up on screen right now, but you can see like 4 barrels below one particular gun. You can see 2 rocket launchers below another one. You can see like a sight and a silencer on another one.
There's a sniper with a rocket on it. Yeah.
Can we modify all guns, or just TDR, or TDR get more modifications than the others? I don't know. And how do you even mod?
My understanding is it's well, from the way they described it, it's like one of the unique things for that brand. So it's the Vladov ones that you can mod. But then, having said that, from the previous leaks, they did mention that potentially, you know, there is like a modding system in it, but they might have been inferred from the Vladov system. So I feel like from all the ones we've seen in the trailers, any of the Vladov weapons are the ones that have got these crazy attachments. So it might just be one of the bonuses for like having those weapons, right? So
yeah. So do you find them with the attachment, or do you have to attach them somehow and build those attachments, or buy the attachments from a shop, or like how does that work? We'll have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Yeah,
unless that's how they get away with the 1 billion weapons. Unless it's like, you know, you could get like a sniper that can drop, and then you could have a sniper with a rocket, or a sniper with a taser, or a sniper with like a maybe that's how they're kind of making up their million.
They've got like 6 attachments, and they get like 36 versions of one gun out of it.
Yeah, like that's how we'll tick that number. We got it. They'll never know it. And then they can do the same with that Maliwan. They can be like, here's fire and ice, here's fire and slag, here's fire and like whatever, and they were like, they'll never notice. I'm like, we're on to you, man.
They just add like 6 just different elemental effects, and it's like completely different gun now.
Well, I don't think the formula is going to change that much from Borderlands or Borderlands 2. You know, a bajillion guns. They all just sort of land with random rolls and just interesting things. Then you kind of got to decide, do I want this shotgun or this one? Like, which one am I going to stick with? And as you level up, you're usually swapping guns out anyway, because you find something more powerful or just something that makes more sense for the level of play you're at. But oftentimes you'll end up sticking with you'll be like level 25, sticking with this level 20 gun that just has an amazing roll. Hopefully they do something to address that system where like you can carry a god roll gun with you going forward. There wasn't anything like that in Borderlands 2, was there? Or even the pre-sequel?
No.
I
think, I think it kind of counted a little bit more in that series though, because you didn't get good loot, you struggled killing things. So, I mean, there's other guns we can talk about. I mean, like, Torque has like a Halo needler effect, where the more you plant in them, the bigger kind of detonation you get from these sticky kind of ammo types. It reads, switch between regular and sticky projectile modes. Stickies do more damage if a bunch of them detonate on the same target.
Nice.
So I don't know why you wouldn't shoot off like 2 sticky rockets at them.
Well, the interesting thing with that is that I wonder if that also works for a team. Imagine if you all had like 4 of you all using that weapon and you all powered sticky onto a boss. Like that could do some insane damage. But
Yeah.
Oh man, this just makes really, really exciting like team builds, because like, all right guys, let's take this guy down with only stickies. And like, didn't Glad just last week like kill the ogre in The Last Wish from the other side of the bridge? Like stupid stuff like that is just going to be extra prevalent in Borderlands 3, and that gets me extra excited to see the sort of combinations that we're going to get. Were there any weapon types that we didn't go over? Like here, I'll just go down. I have them all.
There is the Jacobs one.
The ricochet.
Is hilarious, just because of that one. Like, if you shoot them in their soft and sensitives, which I'll allow you to work out what that is. Apparently, the enemies will joy puke, and then the bullets will bounce around. So I basically expect seeing like shooting a bandit in his soft and sensitives, and then him puking like a rainbow or something. I can just picture that happening.
Yeah.
Very Borderlands. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure if the bullets always ricochet, but that also opens up some possibilities of staying behind cover and firing, and just like hitting a wall and it bouncing. Yeah. So it could be like the Jacobs could be the way to take down enemies above your level. Maybe speed running kind of weapon. We might see that in the future. Yeah.
What else we got here? Atlas. Step 1, hit your enemies with tracker tags. Unleash a hail of smart bullets that track towards your target. Step 3, loot. Did we cover off on that one? Tracking guns.
So this is your fire hack kind of gun.
What game had that? Deus Ex? Was it Deus Ex that could like track bullets around corners? Or
Cyberpunk had that during the 2077 demo as well.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's exciting. That's a really, really cool gun perk that I would like to see more of for sure.
Yep.
Hyperion's pretty cool as well, because they got the shield. So when you aim down sights, it brings up a shield. So you can kind of use that as like, if you want to be like, maybe that'll be good for like Siren, because she's supposed to be like the melee class. So if she's gonna be up close and personal, she can just like run in and just be like.
Yeah, I think that's the one you take when you don't really want one of those weird gimmicks. You're just like, nope, just want to stand at a gun, just want to shoot them in the face. Don't know. Yeah, I mean, Dahl. I don't really understand Dahl just yet. It's got alternate fire modes. I'm not sure if it's like it was in Borderlands 2, where if you fire down sights, it's like a single shot or a burst, and if you fire from the hip, it's fully auto. I'm not sure if that's what they mean with it, but it also says it gives you bonus damage. I'm not sure exactly how you get bonus damage from that by switching fire modes. Maybe you get like a little buff from switching fire modes.
Potentially.
I assume maybe they might have just behaved more like in kind of conventional games, where irrespective of like aiming down sights, maybe you can just toggle fire modes, you know, like you can in some of those like war sim games. So maybe that, interesting.
What else do we got down the list? Hyperion, aim down sights to take cover behind your weapon mounted shield and keep your finger on the trigger for increased accuracy.
For high accuracy.
Sounds good to me. Dahl, alternate fire modes. We just talked about that, right? Yeah. Vladoff, augment these rapid firing. Yeah, that was cool. Torque, switch between regular and sticky. Oh yeah, the sticky one. That one's actually really exciting for me. I would love to see more about that. Malawan, toggle between two elements. Talked about that. Cobb, Children of the Vault. I don't think we hit this one. Enjoy uninterrupted damage dealing courtesy of infinite ammo magazines, occasionally interrupted by unpredictable overheating. Damage dealing.
I imagine that'll probably behave more so like when you jump on like a minigun in like in some games where it's like they've effectively got infinite ammo, but like you just have to monitor your fire, and then you can probably I like the look of those ones because they look kind of like weapons that come straight out of like Sunset Overdrive sort of thing. They've got that like punk colorful vibe to them.
Yeah. This is the one that I said before. I think replace Bandit. Think Mass Effect 1, Destin. How each gun kind of doesn't have any ammo. It just kind of overheats after a certain amount of time. That's how I imagine it to be. However, it does have one keyword in there that makes me think a little differently. Unpredictable. So it says unpredictable overheating. Predictable overheating is having a heat bar, right?
Yeah.
Unpredictable overheating is it just randomly getting overheated.
I think that's kind of bad.
Yeah, like if that's the case.
There has to be a minimal amount, like 21 bullets is the minimum amount you'll fire unlimited without overheating. But if it's like one to like 7.
This is Borderlands we're talking about, right?
Yeah.
They're probably going to tell you, they'll be like, right, I'm in a boss fight. I need this weapon to do the damage. It'll be like, oh, it's overheated. All right, cool. It's cooled down. Oh, it's overheated again. Oh, man, come on. I just need to shoot this boss. But it's going to happen.
And then you'll be on like a skag and it just won't overheat, right?
Yeah. Like, where were you when I needed you, man? Oh dear.
Weapon rarity.
I'm not sure if this
also
was
white, green, blue, purple, orange. So there's that, and that's about everything to talk about.
I'm not sure if this was a rumor or not, but they were saying that the gun with legs, one of the TDO ones that we saw in the trailer, it also slings insults as well.
Oh, that's great.
So as it runs towards you, so if that's the case, man, I'm all over that.
Yeah, that would be awesome. Because there was that screaming gun in Borderlands 2, wasn't it? Was it 2 or 1? There's one of the ones where when you fired, it was like
2. Oh yeah. That was really fun.
I really wanted to make that gun work, but I could. No, it just.
I saw a run the other day. Someone was doing a video. I think it was like Borderlands 2, and he was like fighting a boss. It was playing as the Necromancer, and like he let the mech do the actual fighting, and he just spent the whole time just firing his gun into like I wasn't sure what his build was, but he was basically firing the screaming gun into the ground for like 20 minutes. Like, this is an interesting video. But you got it done.
It's like the fireplace loops that you play at Christmas, right?
It's true.
Just makes you feel like you're at home in the world of Borderlands.
Oh yeah, but there is one other thing to add there as well. We touched on weapons and loot, but I think that obviously Dantics mentioned the previous week as well. So we did get the confirmation on the way that loot works. So there is the option now.
Yes.
Yeah, to either I like to either keep the traditional system or to have personal loot. So if you don't want a loot ninja, then
And there is that toggle.
Oh yes, yeah. So I owe Dantics a bit for that one.
I'll stick with having played.
I can't wait for this beer.
Having played Borderlands 2 recently, pretty sure that I'm going to stick with the loot instance option. No, I don't want to. It was okay with my friend who I played with, but I'm like, all right, this is kind of annoying. Money was shared in Borderlands 2, so like you couldn't steal money. But there was a time I got stuck with a pistol for a very long time, or just like the worst gear, because he just got lucky. Everything he opened had guns in it. And then sometimes I would steal a gun. Yeah, right. It's sort of fun, but I'm like, maybe the instance thing is fine. But I mean, you could also just play solo, which is actually how I played Borderlands 2 initially, because I was on a dev kit at the time. So there's that option.
Yeah, when you play with randoms, you might consider uninstancing it, unless there's like movement speed talents, and then you just go straight for those, and you're sweet.
Yep. Oh yes, I'm a trained loot ninja.
If you can get your pets to gather loot for you, then we've got this. We've got this.
Oh yes, that'll be the one.
The final game that we have to talk about, and it'll be fairly brief, but let's talk really quick about Destiny 2, the last looter shooter on the market, and some of the Arc Week updates that are coming down the road. It looks like Warlock grenades are getting a significant buff. They also showed a tease of some of the other changes that are on the way, and they look interesting. They look good, but at the same time, it seems like it's going to be a fairly light week for content. I'm excited to mess around with these builds a little bit, but basically on Fireteam Chat, our regular show about all things Destiny, we called it Patch Note Update Expansion Week or something like that, because it's all just stuff that should have been in the patch. So it's just kind of like, all right, I guess you're patching the Arc subclass for Arc Week. That's cool, but at least they made it a little more themed. I'm not all that particularly hyped about it, but I am glad that the Arc subclasses are getting a little bit of TLC. How do you feel about it? Dantics, you play Destiny?
I have played the start of Destiny, and I have jumped back every now and then, but not enough for this to really resonate with me. Honestly, though, I really hope that they introduce, not Destiny, but other looter shooters introduce what Destiny have done with the raid system.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I see it. But Arekkz, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I still haven't really been. Admittedly, as I say, this is it's the first sort of the Drifter update is the first update where I haven't actually been following too much. So yeah, I still haven't kind of jumped back in yet. To be honest, I feel like for me, I'll probably jump back in for Penumbra. I know I'll have some like catching up to do, but I feel like that's probably where I'll come back in, because that's when there's supposed to be another raid. Because ultimately, that's what I play Destiny for. For me, that's always been my driver. So I feel like that'll be my returning point for it. But I mean, outside of that, there was some. I don't know whether you
the leaks,
or whether you've already kind of spoken about that. Yeah, but there's been some information about like Destiny 3, right? It sounded quite interesting.
Yeah, about like rumors and such. I heard like In on the Nine said that. Then I heard he came out and said no, I didn't. So I don't really know what's going on with that. But
fair.
Just for fun's sake, yes, it sounds like Destiny 3 isn't going to be this September, but later in the future, and I'm totally fine with them waiting. And I'm excited to see where they go with the franchise. I don't know. How could Destiny 3 get you back in, Dantics? I don't think it's going to be bringing back old guns.
No. So for someone like me, because I think we've got a good spread of people here. We've got someone that very much knows Destiny inside and out. Then we have someone in the mid range with Arekkz, and then me that knows absolutely nothing. I know more than that I need to right now because I don't play it. But to get me back in, honestly, there needs to be something that is very general. It needs to pull a lot of people. A new mechanic. It needs to be something quite beautiful, maybe graphically beautiful. Yeah. It needs to be. It needs to have some kind of hook for me, because right now I've tried both of them and they both didn't hook me in some way or another. There needs to be, like, Anthem had flying, for example, flying mechs, Iron Man experience. The gameplay was really interesting. It was very different. I think Destiny 3 would need to do something quite drastic. What that is, I don't know. I'm not a developer, so creatively, I don't know what direction they need to go. But for a lot of fans, I'm guessing it would just need to be an update to everything that made it good previously. For me, it would need to be a lot more than that. So I'm probably not the right demographic.
Yeah. What do we like, Arekkz? I'm sure you'll play it, but what would get you really excited about a Destiny 3?
I mean, for me, I kind of want the game to sort of fundamentally, like, you know how we were sort of talking about before, like when we spoke last week about when there was like the kind of reception to the Borderlands 3 trailer and how people were like, oh, it didn't do much, and we're like, well, when we kind of wanted Borderlands 3, we just didn't necessarily want it to be better. We just want it to be bigger. With Destiny, I do want it to be better. Like, for me, like Destiny right now, like even when I played last, there's things that I enjoy in it. There's things that I love about Destiny, and it'll always be a series that I still like. But right now, it just doesn't appeal to me, and I feel like the game needs to, for me, for Destiny 3, like I want a ton more depth. Like, we already know that like Destiny 2, even with some of the stuff they've done recently, it's still been massively stripped back. Like in a game like this, I know gunplay is their strong suit, but like one of the things that I love so much about Anthem is that it's so ability heavy, right? And Destiny has the potential to have some really cool abilities. I mean, you're this Guardian with all this power, but I feel like half the time I feel like I'm kind of just playing Call of Duty in space, because like it's basically guns with an occasional grenade or occasional ability, right? I want Destiny 3 to be like, yo, I'm slinging abilities all the time. I want to be like raining down fireballs. I want to be like throwing arc stars, and I also like I want that depth. I want to have skill trees that are more than just like pick this grenade, pick this. I want to go back to like properly specking down a skill tree, like really investing in my character. I want to have more classes. I want to have more enemies. I'm fed up. Like I swear, if Destiny 3 comes out and I'm still fighting the Hive, the Cabal, and the Vex and whatever, yo, man, I'm not gonna be a happy guy.
Right.
You hit the nail on the head with the classes. Like if I hear Warlock, I want some Warlock. I want shit flying everywhere. I want like spells. I want like summoning.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Come on. And one thing that I really want them to do as well is like I really because I mean probably because I come from like a WoW background. I really want them to dip into like the darkness to be the point where like we've seen this in the story where you can kind of go either way. And Destin, you mentioned that they might be hinting at this already with like the the Drifter updates and whatnot. Yeah. But I really want to be like in Destiny 3, like yo. You can be like you're a guardian of the darkness or you're a guardian of the light, and then you can then have the whole like Horde and Alliance kind of thing from like World of Warcraft. And then if that does end up transpiring to be true, the leak about or the rumor about there being like open world potential PvP, like yo, I'm down. I'll be a darkness guardian and like give me some cool abilities. So there needs to be, for me, I want a lot of changes. I want like a big overhaul. I want it to like almost be to the point where you kind of almost like you could get away with not calling it Destiny 3. You could get away with just like completely relaunching it as like Destiny Reborn or something, because it would be that different. That's what I want personally.
If they do wait the additional time, also that puts them in the next gen territory, so we could get that graphical update. And I would actually argue, I think Destiny is actually a quite beautiful game. I think they do a really good job with the Destiny 1 engine. They sort of evolve that look with the Destiny 2 engine. Their Skybox team is amazing. Their world design team is amazing. I would like to see more storytelling within the world. We talked about this on Fireteam Chat, but like the Cosmodrome in Destiny 1, all the crashed airplanes and all the sort of dilapidated buildings on Earth, it kind of gave you an idea of what was going on in that world. And I would like to see more of that going forward for the franchise. And yeah, I think the classes, we've sort of seen a lot of the old stuff brought back for Destiny 2. I would love to see what they do with Destiny 3 and just really, really go crazy. More spells, like you said, Dantics. More warlocky type things that you would do as a warlock, you know?
So, would like a big kind of like open world also help? Because
I would like that.
Well, you would still have to have the travel between biomes, right? Like that's the way that they've managed to do it right now. Now, I don't know if they could do that within one sandbox. It looks like Borderlands might be doing that, but playing Borderlands 2, that you sort of like would teleport around into the different biomes, right?
Yeah.
So you'll still be traveling from world to world, I think, in some manner. I don't know what that'll look like, but yes, a big open world exploration area would be cool. And it would be nice to run around and sort of explore and find things. As long as you give me like a mount or a sparrow in order to do that.
Yeah.
Whatever that may be, then I'm down with it. Yeah. What about you?
I found that getting a mount was very, very difficult. Maybe I was doing something wrong, but I found people like, I found people were like driving around, and I couldn't figure out how to get it. It was a drop at the time. Correct me if I'm wrong.
No, you get it like. It's like the second thing that you get. I think you get it pretty early on. There are some levels, though, where you can utilize it.
Okay, all right. All right.
Yeah, Destiny, you get sparrows pretty early on, but hopefully they figure out a way to make it interesting to traverse the world and give you things to explore, more like they did with Destiny 1. That's what I would like to see.
Something that I want to see as well, like, and this is something that, like, no looter shooter really does to this day, and I feel like maybe part of the reason they do it is because like looter shooters, we often refer to them like earlier on like MMO lights, right? So they are supposed to be like the lighter version. But one of the things that I've always like really liked about MMOs are the ambient activities you can do. Things like going around and farming materials, things like going around like, you know, leveling a profession or doing like fishing. They sound like silly, weird things, but when you enjoy a game like this so much, and it kind of sort of becomes a community point for you where like you hang out with your friends in those games. Like in something like World of Warcraft, I could just hang out with my friends and we just be like sit on voice chat and we just go and run around like, all right, I'm farming some mine, or like I'm going picking flowers, I'm gonna go like level up my profession. Whereas like in these games, like you kind of like if you log on with purpose. You're like, all right, we're gonna log on, we're gonna do the raid, we're gonna do a mission, we're gonna do Crucible, and it's kind of like, you know, obviously you're still socializing with your friends, but it's a different kind of thing. None of these games seem to really have like a passive ability to like just chill out and play. And maybe that's because that's not the intention. Maybe they've never intended them to be those games because they are the sort of lighter experience, but I miss that. Like that's one of the things that I've loved about anything that is an MMO. Like there's always something you can just do where you can just log on like and just chill. Yeah. And you don't necessarily have to like actively engage. You're just more like, I'm just doing this passively. I'm in the world because I like the world and I'm chilling and socializing. Like those kind of things are cool. So
do you know the side effect of professions is it makes the world seem more alive? If you walk past a pond and you can fish in it, then that's something you can do there.
Yeah.
If you walk past a mountain and there's ores, you can mine there. So it's not just walking around aimlessly with nothing being there. Suddenly the world is more alive and suddenly you got to explore more because there might be a great gold vein like around the corner that, you know, you need to look for. Or there might be, you know, some great hunting grounds for deer or something around the corner, you know, like there's like professions do add a little bit of immersion in the world as well. Which I completely agree.
That'd be pretty cool. Like just some reason to do other things. I think the factions sort of offered that and then they're just gone right now. So that's a bummer. I just more variety in the things that you can do. Yeah. I think that's all that we really had time to discuss this week. That's everything that's been going on. We talked about Anthem, Division, Borderlands, and Destiny 2. We each, of course, offer our expertise in the particular game. And thank you guys for supporting us. Of course, we're going to keep continuing to talk about Anthem. A lot of people seem concerned like, oh, you're not going to talk about Anthem anymore. We never said that. We've been very clear that we will continue discussing Anthem. We're just expanding our horizons to include many different properties all on one show. Thank you guys for joining us. Arekkz, where can people find you?
Predominantly over on YouTube, youtube.com/ArexG, and also on Twitter, just twitter.com/Arekkz.
And Dantics?
You can find me primarily on YouTube. /Dantics and /Dantics official on all the social media platforms.
Cool. Well, thank you, everybody. We'll see you next time. Get your loot drops, and we'll be back next week. Oh, quick note, actually. Next week, we're going to be recording a little bit earlier in the week, so the episode may air at an off regular time because we're all busy next week, Sunday. So just keep an eye out for that, and we will let you know when the episode is live. So be sure you're checking out youtube.com/Destin channel, the Twitch channel, and all of our Twitters. So if you follow us on Twitter, that'll be the best spot to know when we launch early next week. Thanks for watching, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye for now.